Attorney Gerard D. Yekula. He's the program manager at Center. We will be looking at the launch of a 5-year report on the Liberia Education Advancement Program LEAP. Good morning, Anthony Yekula.
Good morning, Vafli. It's a pleasure to be in your studio. I think this is my first time
Oh,
to be
okay.
in the school's studio. Yes, but it's great to be here to discuss issues that matter very seriously to the people of this country.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. So tell us about the Liberia Education Advancement Program, the LEAP.
Yes. So back in 2016,
Mm.
the government of Liberia, through the Ministry of Education, um, thought it was a very wise idea to outsource public education. So what happened basically was to get private people to manage government schools and to provide, to take over government schools and teach our kids.
Okay.
So that happened at a
At
backdrop.
what level of the school system? Is
Yeah,
it
so
primary, secondary, or
yeah, basically primary.
okay?
Yes. So and the backdrop for that was that when we do this, I mean, there will be some innovation that will be introduced. So,
Mm.
but this met stiff resistance actually, and some of those resistance came from also Central. We have this coalition we are part of, called the Coalition for Transparency and Accountability in Education (COTE). Of that, we're concerned because education is a public good,
Mm-hmm.
it's a human right, and in public schools especially, there's a reason we have public schools because it's not everyone who has the means to take advantage of the private sector. So given those constraints, government has to be able to provide these services to people, especially against the backdrop that they will not be able to afford other channels of learning. So to see at a point, we raise contention that to see public schools being turned over to private providers,
Mm-hmm.
this was problematic. So, and one of the reasons why we said it also was because even the provider that was coming out of at the time, the government was turning the schools over to just one entity called Breach International Academies,
Yeah.
and we had followed Breach track records in Uganda, and they had schools there. Were the model in Uganda in East Africa. They were not using government schools. They went there with the idea. They had these tablets. They had the technology they could use to monitor teachers, on a presence in the classroom. They had the technology they could use to teach people from the tablet. So in those countries, they were basically using their own schools. But in which schools were they using? The schools were basically not up to standard.
Mm.
Some of the schools were not even in buildings, were in like shacks,
Mm.
right? So to see our public school system being turned over to that kind of group, it was very concerning.
Okay.
So we raised eyebrows, and then after we raised the eyebrows down, then the
You mean
government
that coalition, that body of
COTE,
okay,
yes,
Kote.
yeah, the Coalition for Transparency and Accountability in Education. And when we raised the eyebrow, then the government said, "Wait a minute," they check a break and say, "Okay, can we find a way to to represent this thing? Can we repackage this?" So now they decided instead of using only bridge, and they will now to create a sense of competitiveness.
Okay.
They will now open the process, up to have other people to provide services. Since the thinking was okay, we can get people to come and help public schools. So we'll not make it to be only bridge for people to think it looks very
Yeah.
fishy. So we're going to bring in other people. So they open it up. So at the time the name was called private partner on a
Yeah.
private public partnership, then it changed to partnership schools for Liberia,
Okay.
right? Uh, and then they had like 8 persons or 8 groups, that came on board to provide these services. So for British academies, like of Black Liberia, Southern Maris was involved, but it did not really take on operations.
Mm-hmm.
He had rising academies. All of these people that were there, about 8 of them, youth movement for collective action. So they came in now and they took different schools here and there. Now fast forward to LEAP. The name later on got changed to Liberia Education Advancement Program. Um, and so this report that we are talking about today basically looks into that history, looks into the history of turning our public schools over to private actors to manage, to
Mm.
see whether, what goals have there been, whether this is even the best approach to our education sector, given the fact that we have updated principles and Even our constitution guarantees the right to education. We have many other international instruments that guarantee the right to education.
But what gave rise to the report in itself? Why they report?
So in 2016, in 2016, PPP came about. In 2017, Cote
Yeah.
did its first monitoring report. So we looked at the whole award process. We looked at the whole system of how this process of being rolled out.
Hmm.
So 5 years later, even when the we administration took power, many of the statements they made at the time, the education people were like, "You guys are doing right as Cote, and we are basically going to discontinue this program." But to our utmost surprise, they continue the program, right? And even not only continue, expanded
The program.
the program. So when it started first, for example, there were 93 schools in the program. Now we have 525 schools in the program. So one of the reasons behind the thinking behind this report is to see, for example, how is this program faring? Is it yielding desired outcomes? Has there been a massive change in our education system because of this program? Are there risks that we need to consider?
Hmm.
And so that's the reason why we decided to go back in the field to go and ask people to see how far this program have come.
So
And what
what's
are
the
the
report time frame? It covers which years?
from 2017 to 2022.
Okay.
That's the time frame of the report. Yes, and we just released it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the report has been launched. It's released. I have a copy here, but I want to know what essentially the report says.
hmm Yeah, so there are many things that this report covers. And one key thing to mention is that the report recognizes
Hmm.
that some evaluations have shown that there have been some modest increases, a little, so increases here and there in terms of children are attending, these private, schools, these LEAP schools.
Yeah.
In terms,
Enrollment has increased.
not necessarily enrollment, but in the issue of their, proficiency. So in terms of mathematics, for example,
Oh, okay.
in terms of English and reading, there have been some increases there. But the problem here is, as the report shows, so that's the plus for the program, right? It at some point it has even made it tracks teachers, so in terms of teachers absenteeism,
Hmm.
it tries to address that because with the use of technology, you have teachers are able to track teachers coming to school, and so
They are being monitored.
they're being monitored. So I mean that's a plus for the program, which we recognize. And the downside is the fact that now when a question of enrollment has been affected because even from the very get go,
Hmm.
to be able to install or put into place this new system, there were students that were basically cut off from the different schools. So basically, there was a cap size that were placed with the different schools, I think 35 or so. So in public schools, you can imagine how these public schools are very populated.
Hmm.
Now you come and you give the schools to a private actor,
Yeah.
and the private actor say, I cannot take 80 students per class. Right?
Or reduced
I
to
reduce it.
50.
Exactly. So I think it was 35, between 35 and 45. Now what happens is, so and most of these schools they are fire apart. So in many places you only have one public school in a community. So you now say, look,
You
beautiful.
deprive the
Exactly.
leftovers.
Exactly. So you when you do that, you have the other students now have to go and find other places. That was a major problem, the problem of access, to education that this program has led to. So it's really a big issue. Um, Again, one of the issues that we found is the question of the lack of transparency around the process. As we speak, we really don't have data as to how much money is being put into this program because we realize the way the program is structured, you have people, also these providers, all right, they have philanthropists that they look up to. So they went and sell this idea
Hmm.
that looking at Bill have this very good innovation that we are making, we're improving teachers, uh, presence in the schools, we're improving learning outcomes, even though we're marginal, points, but we're increasing, we're doing some good things in the schools, right? So they go and sell this idea and people give them money,
Hmm.
right? So the question is, if you are getting money on our behalf,
Hmm.
can we know how much money you're getting? What are your sources of the money?
But that is not in the program. The actual amount being received by these
It's not
partners
made public.
is not made public.
It's not made public.
And the report captures that.
Yeah, the report covered. Now, one of the major concerns we had. The report also says what was the rationale behind the expansion. because the point
The
was,
expansion of the schools or the
yeah,
students?
yeah, the schools.
Okay.
Because the point was, in the first year, it was referred to as a pilot. All right. So by saying pilot, the
Mm,
Ministry of Education said, well, we are testing this idea. So once we test the idea and we show that there is good returns coming from it, we are going to expand it. All right.
mm,
But then we'll see after the first year, there's a massive expansion. From like 93 schools to 171, then 102, then 93. So we're saying, on what basis is all these expansions happening? When you're not, the first thing, there are questions about even the evaluations that are being done. And I question about the independence of those who are undertaking the evaluation in the first place. Now you're having this program, you're not consulting with stakeholders,
mm.
you're not consulting with civil society actors, with communities so they can come and give you their own view about the program. On what basis do you keep expanding this program from one school to another? Now you have like three, you have over 525 schools on the program. These are some of the issues the report raises. The report also raises issue of even conducive learning environment.
Mm.
You won't believe me, there are schools in this program where you have students sitting on planks in schools. It's a very serious issue.
Honor the program.
Yeah, under the program.
And thinking that this program that has the likes of Bridge,
Yes,
all these partners
yes,
will be a blessing, but it
yeah,
turned out to be a curse.
exactly. It's a very significant issue that we discovered.
Mm,
And many of the school administrators that we talked to, they were like, because of the lack of transparency. I mean, the first time the program started, some of the reason we made the noise was because we laid our hands on the contract, for example. Then we'll go see at the time, for example, they were charging around um, $1,050 per child. Yes, $1,050 per child. When the government own budget or estimation per how much they can put into a child school fee per year was $50. When we saw at the time it was $1,050 per child on the program, we're concerned. Where are they getting all this money from? And how are they going to use it? Now, so with the expectation that you're getting all this money that you're going to use, then you still see people sitting basically on planks in schools, and it's a problem, right? Then the $1,050 later you use it to say they will be
okay, we'll come to the main points of the
mhm,
report, but
mhm,
why should we trust the report?
mhm.
Is it credible? Is this report credible?
Hmm. Yes, I mean that's a reason why we're always open to feedback. We're always open to and I know when we launched a report at Corina Hotel, it was well received. So far, I've not seen any public backlash, against the report, but it should be trusted because this report is a report of scholarship. Within the first thing, so there was a whole methodology. Uh, and the methodology we used was basically a qualitative method where we did key informant interviews and focus group discussions. And we're able to speak to around 81 persons, as a part of this whole method.
Mm,
We're able to review news reports. We're able to look at even reports that are out there. Um, so there are many things we're able to look at under the interviews. And so all of what is contained in this report is not a matter of guess or a matter of emotion, but it's evidence based. And that's the reason why we believe it's very credible. I mean, all of our reports we release, there's a very huge diligence that goes into it. We don't just release our reports based on how we feel. So yes, the report is out there, and that's why it's public, and we are open. We even have people who are providing services, invited to our program.
mhm.
So we are open, and that's why we will appreciate any feedback.
It seems to me the report has more bad than good. Talking about, first of all, you don't know the sources of these funding that come into the partners, and then to the schools, and also seeing the students being left because of the classes,
Mhm.
reduction in the number of students in a class under this program. What other good can we talk about in this report?
Yeah, like I said, the goods we've been able, and it's one of the issues of the goods is the fact that um, we expect that there will be openness, right?
Mm,
So one of the things in this report, we engage with the Ministry of Education, for example.
mm,
So it's expected, and even Breach itself. But do you know what happened? They did not respond. So if we are not running a program, right, and we are engaging with you, and if you cannot really, give us information, then how do we tell your story?
mm,
So this lack of transparency on the part of the Ministry of Education, which we are also talking about, also harms them in a way, because if you are doing good, you must be able to tell us the good,
Mm.
right? So usually what they do is the way release, most of the engagement and the reports or the news that they put out is basically from a public relations standpoint. They basically, they don't do a comprehensive report that tells us the
Of
bad and the good.
independent reporting.
Exactly. So we don't have that. The last time we engaged with the ministry on this particular research, we engaged with the ministry and we set up an appointment time, and we showed up for the interview. By the time we started the first set of questions, they said, "Oh, hold on, can you send us the soft copy and hard copy of this questionnaire? Then we'll fill it in and get back to you." And okay, we did it, no response. So this whole thing is being shrouded in secrecy, and that's the reason why the report might appear the way it appears, because that means we only significantly have information from the communities, from those who have interacted, from other stakeholders,
Mm.
but then Breach itself is not able to tell its own story. So far as we're able to get is the issue of, well, there have been some marginal increases in learning outcomes in terms of in students' performance in preschools. There have been issues of teachers, monitoring going on here and there, but that is as far as it goes. We cannot say much. Uh, what we're able to gather, meaning gather came from the field, and I think Breach should take responsibility, because they are the ones who failed to provide this information. Maybe because it's not been there in the first place, we cannot say. Maybe it's there, but they did not give it. So what we can say is that uh, there is need for a sober reflection on this particular program as we go ahead.
Okay. Uh, are you have you met with the new education minister and have the discussion surrounding what the report says and some of the recommendations therein?
I mean, there are plans to make
Okay.
over. And she just took office, and we just launched the report just last week. So we are very hopeful. Our technical coordinator, honestly, Miamen, is currently national coordinator, is currently out of the country. Once he returns, we're going to plan. Because one of the things we do at Cote Central is the fact that we don't just believe in talking; we believe in constructive engagement. And that's the reason why you realize that in the education sector, there are many consultative forums that they have. Even the education sector plan that governs the entire education sector is a product of consultation of different stakeholders. So there are different forums, for example, the Library Education Group that looks at different things in the sector. That's why we are shocked when we see that this LEAD program has not been a subject of consultation. So we also always believe that there must be this discussion going on. People must engage. And that's the reason why we think this program has been lacking in. But for us at Quote Center, that is something we really appreciate.
Mm.
Consultation, working together, and that's why we will make it our business to engage with the Ministry of Education. We engaged with them before, even doing this research we did, and we will continue to do those things. For it's not just a matter of just talking the talk or just laying blame here and there, but how we can be able to solve the problems that beset us as a country.
I'm seeing here in the report a lack of respect for the rule of law. On whose part?
Yeah, so one of the things I must say to you is that what this report is over LEAP, but one of our major focuses is Breach International Academies.
Okay.
Because as I gave you the history, one of the reasons why we have this program in the very first place is because
But is Breach the only
it's not
lead?
it's not the only. That's why we touch the other ones a bit, but Breach
Is the lead
is the lead, is most significant. As we speak, Breach has like 70% of schools.
on its watch?
Yes, in the program.
Okay.
So that, and it's a very key one. That's why we focus on Breach. So when it comes to the issue of the respect of the rule of law, one of the points we make there is the point of, for example, labor practices.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that people who talk to teachers, they say, well, I mean, we have been required to work longer hours, and then we're not getting paid for those longer hours prior to one we used to work before. Um, that even this question of let's go to students and forget about the other stuff, right? Your students are being in school for longer hours, over 3 o'clock, but there's no meals provided for students. You get what I'm saying. So we are thinking that this kind of program, even if you see you're bringing innovation, you're doing this, but then there has to be other aspects you look at. If you're keeping students longer than the 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, then it has to be this meal component that you must be able to consider as you roll out a program. In terms of labor practices again, there are issues of so Breach basically said They came here and said, well, we're going to vet teachers. So they were able to find out quote unquote unqualified versus qualified teachers. And so with the unqualified teachers, they basically dumped them somewhere else. The interesting thing I must let you know is all these people who are teaching on this program, they're still under the Ministry of Education payroll. Right? They are still being so the question now is what is British really doing when
So does Bridge honor the program? Are they supposed to give teacher salaries? Are they supposed to pay salaries?
we would think, I mean, there's no transparency around it, right? But who would think that with all of the money they are generating,
Then how was the program designed in the first
in the
place?
first place, that's how it started. The Ministry of Education said, we'll give you our schools building, our teachers will be there, they'll be on our payroll. And you come and provide the technology, you will do the monitoring, you will do the coordination, blah, 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 blah. And we're saying, no, but that means you're still maintaining key functions instead of burdening to the government. So then what are they doing with all the money? So that's the reason we're requesting this financial transparency. So Bridge can tell us, hey, okay, though there's a ministry of education payroll, but then the other teachers will have it as volunteer teachers. And so since they're now on the ministry period, we're able to supplement this, supplement, their salary with this amount of money. But we're not saying that. At the fundamental, basis of it,
Mm.
it still remains a prerogative of government to pay these teachers, right? So we have situations where teachers are even transferred to other locations, but there's no resettlement package. We think this is very, outrageous. Yeah, there were issues of staff, dismissal and all in breach. There was one staff who got dismissed, and then he went to on senior level staff. He went to the Ministry of Labor, and then he won his case against breach. In the heat of 2019, the heat of COVID-19, breach went ahead and said and we enrolled teachers and said, look, you are gonna go reduce salary by 90% for all teachers during COVID-19, and this was really concerning. And then what happened? There had to be noise. People had to talk about it before people intervene and briefly decided to reinstate the salary of teachers during COVID-19. So many things have been happening in Bridge, and we believe even in terms of the legislature itself has complained
Mm.
that Bridge they have called Bridge, and Bridge has been arrogant to recording Bridge legislature to go and answer questions as to the operations. There have been many times they have not appeared. That has been something
But
that
has Bridge responded to this report?
not officially. I mean, we received we got wind that they hope to respond. I mean, we've seen it. Our previous reports we've done. Bridge will respond quite controversially. So we expect that it will respond, and that's what we're looking for in a very intellectual society, evidence-based society.
Mm.
We hope to respond. But again, the question will be related again because if we engage you during a report, you didn't make yourself available, and you want to be almost like a reaction, so that kind of reactionary, posture. That is not welcoming. You must be able to be, forthcoming when people ask you and engage you on issues of concern.
So the report essentially exposes the loopholes in the program,
Yes.
and also the limitations and weaknesses of key partners like Bridge.
Mhm.
What are the recommendations then?
Yes, we recommend a lot of things. For example, when we look talking about key partners, the question is about how is Bridge getting 70%? As one question we're asking ourselves. Of schools and other partners are getting 7% here, 18% here. There has to be a way, even if the program is continuing, there has to be a way where there's transparency, right? That each partner has an equal chance of getting more schools. And Bridge will not just be this one partner that is way having this vantage point and other partners cannot have this vantage point. So the whole issue of how do we have a level playing field for all those partners on the program is an issue. And that's the reason why you see the program started with 8 partners. At the moment, there are only 4. Others,
Four.
yes, other like Prague, Liberia, Southern Maris, in fact, they didn't even take off. But out of the 4 partners, 4 of the partners dropped along the way because they could not find a way clear. They thought, well, some of them put out in the schools,
So
even
so
without
so
notice.
what is the issue here? Is it that the Ministry of Education is prioritizing Bridge
Yeah,
one way or the other? Is that what the report uncovered?
yeah, most likely. Like I told you, if you look at the basis of the whole program, the PPP program at the very, very beginning, the sole provider was Bridge. And after concerns about, say, no competition, then you have the program being opening up. So now the question is, we'll see a program Bridge is still having this very leeway. And you have the other partners get 7% and won't have 18%, like Rising Academy 18%. The question is on which yardstick. And that's what this report is basically saying. That there appears to be a fee that's not level. The question also of accessibility. LEAP schools are very accessible. Schools are given a bridge that just from here, they're very easy to reach schools. Some of them near the road, not far from one another. But the other schools are giving these other partners to very far apart and all of
Mm.
those. So these are things we're looking at. They say, look,
But are these other partners well capacitated
well,
as bridge?
well, that's the question. The question is then how are you even going? How are you even selecting the partners in the first place, right? I mean, of course, the partners complain that they're not getting the money that they projected to get. Those questions exist, and but the question is how is Beach being more capacitated? Why is Beach using to be more capacitated to get way more schools than the other schools, right? So what is being responsible for this gap? That is why we need more transparency to see, okay, to know that these other partners are not capacitated because they just don't have capacity. They have all of the resources at their disposal, but they just cannot make it. And then we'll see how Bridge is doing this thing so magically, right? Because the first thing is if Bridge is international and these partners are basically local based groups, and you might think also that I want to think that the government will make more effort
Mhm.
to capacity the local based group because these are the ones that will be here. Bridge is just basically an expedition, it's an experiment in education. So say have technology who can make it work, but they're not they are basically an international group. So do you want to see that's what we are saying. Can there be more thinking around the local content? What can happen locally? But more than that, is it even the place? That's a more fundamental question we are asking. Can we, because you see, in 2018, when we engaged with the government, the thing at the time was to say, can we roll back this whole program? Can we return to status quo? Can we go back to our education system and these schools being public schools in the sense of public schools?
Mm.
That was the thinking, but to our utmost surprise, the thing was further expanded to have more private control over the school system. So we are saying that there's a need for this whole program in its entirety to be looked at, to be reconsidered, to see whether we are really, is really good for us, and whether it will be
Is
learning
there
things.
any success story from the program since its inception up to now,
I mean, success.
or the success story is limited?
I mean, like we say, there's little information. We'll keep saying that. They will say they are expanding the schools, which might want to present the situation that there might be successes. But on our side, we are saying, okay, what is the basis for these expansions?
Mm.
Mhm. So, for example, they make the point that in schools, after the first year of the program, the evaluation showed that there were higher scores in English and mathematics, but even that the costs per student, it far surpassed the original projection of the program. Um, so, if you are having increases in learning outcomes, we want to be able to see those increases because that will be the most success story. Maybe the success story will be that students in British schools do the whether it's the 6 grade wise and all of those. Or why we want to be able to see those things happening.
Hmm.
So, but we're not seeing these stories. We see sometimes they make posts of their teachers providing services, they're congratulating their teachers here and there, or they're not able to give us these reports. They're not able to tell us comprehensively what the program is doing. So we think there are many gaps, and that's why, like I said, have they responded to us? We'll be open to see their responses to see how far they have gone, what successes they have been able to make over the period. Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to make some contact with
Okay.
Breach if they can respond to the report, which essentially put a dark cloud over their activities.
Mhm.
But I mean, you like people like you who did the report, the investigation, and got the data. What does that say? Given the report, the outcome of the report, and what you see for yourself in the classroom and our education system, the output. What does that say about the future of education?
I think there are positive things to learn from there. The fact that we have increased teacher presence in schools and reduced absenteeism at teachers. I think it's a good thing. It tells us the role of technology. How can we leverage technology in schools? Um, but on a more fundamental level, it will be the question: how do we now start to think more deeply and incorporate those different facets of education, mainly technology, in our traditional school system. We need to be able to do that. I remember when the whole bridge thing was starting, the question was even the curriculum. How was the curriculum being developed? Is the curriculum based on context, country context? These are discussions that were happening. So I think that there are good things to learn from this example. We need to think more deeply as a country in terms of how do we enroll or try to roll out some technology-based approaches, because the issues are already there. The issue of, say, how to provide space. So, for example, if we can only take 45 students and Bridge is working, can we be thinking to say, look, maybe the issue of overcrowdedness in classroom, maybe it's one of the reasons why we're not getting the best out of our students. Can we now start to build more schools or expand on the capacity of our schools to be able to ensure that, look, we can maintain a class standard instead of having 80 students per class, we can have 40 students per class. Maybe that's the reason why we could have different learning environments. So there are many things we can look at in terms of some positives that we will learn from the whole arrangement. But the problem that lies at its core is a question
But
of,
it's not a bad thing to privatize the public schools.
no, it's significant, and that's our contention. Our contention here is at the core of it is a public responsibility. Education is a fundamental right. It's not something to do business with, especially as a government function. And so we believe that is very important, because the way you see what happened with Bridge and the private school and the other partners, or the lead program, is essentially they did not consider the issue of access, because for them, well, it's our technical thing, and so we can just cut the class into half and send the other 45 to go to any other nearby school, right? I mean, that's not our business. We know we can do 45 is a manageable number, and that's it. Now, the political function, or the public function of it is, look, where do these people go? What is it fundamental? It's not just about saying, oh, we must get to 45 or 35, and so to help the other people. We must be able to say, what should we do to other people? Can there be other, can we open other classrooms? Can we be able to open other schools? So, but if you have this person only thinking or privately, then you have a greater public harm that's going to be caused. And that's the reason we are saying that this has to be looked at. If the government doesn't have the capacity, there could be other learning from elsewhere. Even this very bridge program, whether it's using technology, whether it's using, we think more. So in terms of the public good and public interest, that's why it's important to have. I mean, there's new thinking around public-private partnerships, but then if we lose out on the focus that these are essentially the responsibility of government, then there's a problem. And that's the reason why you see, even in the schools that are now being managed by Bridge, you have people saying, well, we don't even know who to go to. We have not seen a contract. So if there's no chairs in the classroom, we will tell Bridge, we say, oh, that's not part of our responsibility. So it still remains, like I said,
So it seems the report didn't cover the other partners, the other people in the sector, only bridge alone. What is the
yeah.
problem with the other people?
I mean, like I said, Bridge was on the spotlight. Because Bridge is the major, say, provider here, right? So 70% of the schools, that's why, in terms of limitations, we've been started in our limitations in this
Yeah,
report.
but then the report seems biased to me, because even if it's 25%, as small that is, it still requires some level of coverage. The report should cover those partners as well, to see how they're doing in your sector. The schools are honoring them. How they doing?
Yeah, and only I would say to you is the fact that this lead program, in terms of evaluations, already the self evaluation they have done whatsoever, those evaluations were covering the entire lead program, including bridge schools. And so the report we have been able to assess and analyze also covers those partners in terms of our findings about whether there's a level playing field in terms of bridge schools. In fact, I can tell you one of those who attended our program, they even made the point that yes, this report is very valid, because the whole question about how the program gets evaluated is the fact that most of it are paid for internally by lead partners. They themselves fund these evaluations. So in terms of how the program works, in terms of our own research, why we're focused on bridge, but of course we tapped on information that is relevant to other schools.
Mm,
other partners in the program. So our research methodology covered them, though it was not the major focus, because the major focus, like I said, was breach.
mm.
Because breach is the majority partner, but it doesn't mean that there was no information whatsoever relevant to other partners. That's the point basically we're making.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're listening to the Super Morning Show on ELBC Radio. You're listening to Attorney Gerard Yakula. He is is that a program manager
Yes. Yes.
at Central, looking at the report from the launch of the report on on LEAP. The LEAP, that's a 5-year report on the Liberia Education Advancement Program, LEAP. I'm going back and forth with the British people because I want them speak
Mhm.
to the, I mean, spot on to speak to this report because it's yeah. Anyway, what the report now? The report is out. It's been launched. Copies have been sent out. What next?
What next was the point you made earlier about how do we engage with the authorities at the Ministry of Education.
Mm-hmm.
So we make it our business to engage with the Ministry of Education and other partners. Um, yes, and see how best we can have this thing open up for more scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
We need more information on the LEAD program in its entirety, and we're going to ensure that we keep doing that. So, as part of what we do on the radio now, as part of after the launching ceremony, how do we disseminate the report? So, I'm on a program. I'm talking about this report as part of that process. So we're going to engage with the minister. I mean, our role as civil society, we have limitations. So what we can do will be to do evidence-based research, launch reports here and there, advocate, consult. Yes, but we cannot do more than what we can do. So we're going to keep engaged and hope our partners can respond positively as we lift these issues in society.
Okay.
Mm.
Is there any concerns that you have there?
Oh yes, one of the concerns we have here, for example, is the issue of conflict of interest.
Mhm.
Um, so one of the questions, as we look at breach, and you keep asking, "Oh, what breach? What breach?" Because there's a prime provider, and we focus on them. Though we look for other things that are relevant to other people and do some analysis around them. The question, you look at conflict of interest, you see that the current country director of breach was once in the Ministry of Education, and he was once a very active player in the whole private partnership uh, whole scheme for privatization of the public schools.
Mhm.
So we see in that an apparent conflict of interest. Like, was there an attempt to set this whole breach thing up so that when I'm not in government, I can be able to transition, right? So these are some of the issues we raised. To have the deputy minister just 2 3 years ago,
Mhm.
now conduct director of a breach. These are concerns now that we are raising in our report. Even the former education minister is on record for saying George Werner, who basically brought the whole breach idea or the whole leap idea. He's on record for saying he's continuing his engagement with breach. He's very actively playing roles in terms of breach in the direction in this country. So we are concerned. Was this like a plan for the future that these speakers are having, that we must have this thing rolled out so that in the near future we can also be benefiting. So we see in those apparent conflict of interest, and we are raising this issue also in our report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can take calls. I suppose there are, if not instructors, but students of Bridge also who are following the discussion. You can call us on 080 096 080 or 770581886 and be live on the Super Morning Show this morning. Anthony Jera Yekula is the program manager at Centaur, Liberia. They done this report on the Liberia Education Advancement Program, the LEAD program, uh, with Bridge Liberia being the lead in that program about some of the schools that they're running. So you can call us on 080 and be live on the Super Morning Show this morning. Uh, as we are with the cause, Attorney Yekula, let's just look at this quote. Is it the only report so far from the program, or
Oh,
there are reports that also indicate similarities?
yeah. I mean, like I said, in 2016, we issued, or 2017, we did a report. Look at the whole 2016 enrolling out of reach. But Kote has been involved, has been around, has been involved for with different research around in the education sector.
Mm.
I was doing Ebola, I was doing school text, textbook monitoring. We have been around doing those things. We've been very engaged with the education sector in terms of helping to steer the course, providing our guidance or providing inputs into different education sector documents that come up.
Yeah.
We remain engaged. For us is the issue of how can we be transparent and accountable in the sector. And that's the reason why this particular experiment has been of concern to us, because we think the issues about transparency are not so clear. And that's why we think that we have to get to
You
this.
have the Senate committee chair on education who is very interested in the work of some of these partners. Senator Nathaniel McGill, are you willing to work with I mean, share some of these reports and these outcomes with members of the legislature who are also on this committee, especially the committee chair?
Yes, I mean we are open to doing these things and calling our attention to these things. But I'll tell you, as far as the record shows, the very legislature has complained that even Breach itself
Mm.
has not been available for scrutiny at the legislature. So they invited Breach, and Breach decides going to go to the legislature for scrutiny. So I mean, we don't hope that it's going to be any different in terms of their own accountability to the legislature or answering questions. But yes, we are going to raise this issue with all partners that we can raise them with, including the legislature, so that we can start to think about how we can improve and have, because I mean public education is a public good, and so even if we want to have a slightest idea to privatize it, it has to be within the framework of being a public good. It cannot be something that people will just sit down and just decide on how to do, because at the end of the day, the interests of our citizens are paramount. So we have to be able to look at that, and that's the reason why we will remain engaged, whether it's with the legislature or it's with communities that we've been engaged with in this research process, whether it's with the radio stations in terms of disseminating this report, or even the providers themselves. One of the questions about breach is the fact that they've not really been forthcoming. Like I told you, even doing the interviews, even the very ministry. So there have to be discussions that we
Yeah,
can be.
but under the general recommendation, it's not breach that you calling on to provide some of this information. You are calling
Mm,
on the Ministry of Education. You
mhm,
said they should timely, adequate, and credible information and documents about LEAP are made available to stakeholders and partners, schools, administration, parents, teachers, and students currently under the management of LEAP should have unhindered access to their contracts with the government of Liberia and the Ministry of Education to ensure them to make informed decisions and hold the actors accountable. So in essence, it is not breach that should provide you the information, but the government under the Ministry of Education.
yes, because it's been regulated by Ministry of Education. So that's the reason why we
Yeah, so
target
so
that
blink. I
recommendation.
mean, breach cannot take all of the blame.
But that's what I've been saying, that it has to be a shared one. And that's why I said when we went to the Ministry of Education and they agreed to grant us an interview, right? And then we started interviewing and said, no, we cannot go forward with the interview. That's a blame on the Ministry of Education mistake. And I come to the issue of when you ask me and say, oh, well, what are the positives of breach? What are the positives of in terms of learning outcomes, right? Some of those have to be explained by reports from breach to say, well, uh, these are our students, and these are how our students are performing. When you ask them a success story, isn't it rational for breach to be able, because they are the ones on top of these are the
So
ones.
they're not being cooperative.
Yeah, so that's the point I'm making. That there has to be more information around these. It cannot be, I mean, yeah, and that's the point. If it is a public good, if it's a public information, if you are running public schools, then you cannot be so secret about it, because then it's still a public. Even if so, that's the danger of the privatization. Because I mean, I can tell you when we started this thing, there were times we go to schools and it wasn't we're gonna talk to you. So you run a public school where you privatize it, and so you just put on restrictions like, oh, you don't talk to anybody when they come here, right? So school administration are afraid to talk. But this is the public good. Can we have it very transparent and people can be able to talk? That is the point we've been making over time. That look, even if you must have this idea of privatizing, it's still a public good and has to be certain framework within which we can operate.
Mm.
Yeah.
And honor the general recommendation, you also calling for a memorandum of understanding to be signed between the providers and the schools. They manage the BIA. I don't know what is it, and other
British
providers.
National Academies.
Yeah. So that MOU, how significant is that among the actors and the providers?
Yes, so it's a question of knowing responsibilities. Like I told you, there are places where when some of the schools will say, administrators will say, "Oh, ask Bridge, for this thing in the school,
Mm.
for this chair, this desk." But Bridge said, "No, it is not our responsibility. It's the responsibility of central government." All right. On our framework, we are not supposed to do this. So then the question is, but the school administrators they don't have that information, right? They don't have the contract by breach. They don't even have an MOU signed between them. And so that's why we are proposing a look. Can there, if because if breach is going to a school and basically taking over, can that school be,
Can it
aware
be
of
spelled out?
exactly? Can that school be made aware of what is breach coming to do? So it's
And
very
what is
clear.
central government supposed to do?
Yes. So it's very clear. And what are those people in the school and what are going to be their own benefits or what are they even in the school or residing there or resident there? What are they going to do? So it has to be clear so that we don't have a situation where there'll be blame shifting, you know, from one group to another group, from one actor to another actor. This is essentially what we are saying. There has to be something on the paper that people will basically agree to and then know
So
that these are one thing
as
that's
it
going.
stands, nothing available.
Yeah, and that's some of the challenges because um, there are complaints that certain, this thing people will think that well, we're on the Ministry of Education directly, and the fact that we're not getting certain things done, but having preached in the school, certain things will be done. Now, when you go to preach, now preach said, no, it's still the responsibility of the ministry. There are places where when we saw the roofs are leaking, right, roofs are hanging. There are no that in the reports, one of the roofs are falling. You have issues with one of the chairs and all of those things. So we need those things to be rectified. And the only way it can happen, it'll be clearly shown and clearly outlined in a document so that people can be able to know who to hold accountable when something goes wrong. Yeah.
Okay, we almost out of time. Exhausted the main components of the report, but
Mhm.
are there specific, you know, issues we want to talk about briefly before we leave you?
Yes. The question of how do we sustain these schools is very important. And I think it is even a question now because there have been reports that Bridges Self has not been able to or partners have not been able to raise the money that they expect to be able to run this program. So this also calls for further dialogue on whether we even need to continue with this in a way that it will continue, as a strain our schools. Can we be able to look for other modalities? And I will tell you the way the whole program is structured, it makes it difficult to have traditional funding, whether it be from the World Bank, GPE, or USAID to come into fund. So basically, all the funding that goes into the program comes from venture philanthropists, people who are there around the world want to spend money to help people. So the question is, if we're gonna get funding from those sources to run this magical program that is supposed to transform our education sector, then how can we sustain this program? Can we now start to think and say, well, maybe due to these challenges, we have to rethink and then own up to our school, our public school system, instead of just expanding? Or can we say, look, we'll start further expansion of these LEAP schools and then see how we can ensure that we will maximize the ones we have?
Mm.
Or can we say, look, can we have a more thorough? Because as it stands, most of the evaluations that have been done have been basically paid for by LEAP itself, LEAP partners. Right. And so it brings, I can tell you, one of the evaluations that was done by the current country director of Breach. I mean, he was at the ministry. He did some internal evaluations, right? Can we have, I think, a standard person count? Because I think that will be the real independent one we want to see what is the basis for the expansion of this program to the other schools. Because as a country of science, there has to be some evidence that supports our decision making. Instead of just expanding from one to another, we should be able to look at what the records are to inform our decision on expansion. So these are things that we are looking at in terms of sustainability of the program. Are we going to continue to look up there to some magical, donors to support us, or can we say these are things that we can take on? Can there be other components of the program we can incorporate in our own schools? So if it is doing very well, with the teacher monitoring, doing very well with his literacy outcomes, using tablets in schools and whatnot. Can we be able to say, okay, these are positive elements, which is not it's not all that bad? Can we start to incorporate those different elements in our own way of teaching, in our own pedagogy? These are things we will be, hopeful in saying. So yes, this report, we believe that it sets the tone for further discussion. It is not an end in itself, and we believe that it can be used as a basis for further engagement. And we expect that partners will be able to be open, to receiving them into the discussion. Yes.
Okay, Anthony Yekula, thank you very much for being on the program this morning.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be in the studio, and I look forward to further invitations from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, he's Anthony Gerard Yekula, the program manager at the Center. We've been looking at the launch of a 5-year report on the Liberia Education Advancement Program, LEAP. My name is Vafle Kamara. Join me tomorrow for another fascinating presentation of the Super Morning Show. Bye-bye.